You're watching Wish TV's coverage of the 500 Festival Memorial Service, presented by Rolls-Royce.
Hello, I'm Bob Bryant, President and CEO of the 500 Festival, joined by Phil Burkholder, President of Defense Aerospace North America. We're pleased you're joining us today on Wish TV for live coverage of the 500 Festival Memorial Service presented by Rolls-Royce. While we are excited about this weekend's race, today we pause and come together to honor those who have served in the armed forces. We pay special tribute to those Indiana men and women who perished protecting the freedom we all enjoy today. Phil?
Thanks, Bob. Rolls-Royce is honored to once again be today's presenting sponsor of the 500 Festival Memorial Service. Our 4,000 employees in Central Indiana are proud to engineer, design, build, and service power systems used by our nation's armed forces. Today at Rolls-Royce, our mission is critical, just as it was when we started in Indianapolis over a century ago. We are honored to be a part of this important annual event that pays homage to Americans and their loved ones who've sacrificed so much for our country.
We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Rolls-Royce, supporting sponsors One America and the American Legion, our media partners 95.5 WFMS and Wish TV for broadcasting today's ceremony, and to the Indiana War Memorial for hosting today's service. And we especially thank you for joining us for the 500 Festival Memorial Service presented by Rolls-Royce.
Anchoring Wish TV's coverage of the 500 Festival Memorial Service, Scott Sander.
Stream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster city.
Good day on what is a nearly clear sky, just a few clouds out there on Memorial Day weekend that is shaping up to be one of the warmest that we have seen in recent years in Central Indiana. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us today on what has turned into a solemn and both celebratory and somber day here in Central Indiana for the reasons we always embrace with the race, of course, but also this opportunity to say thank you to those who have served and lost everything in the United States of America. You will listen to a little bit from the Capital City Chorus. Then the next voice you'll hear speak is our Master of Ceremonies, Jim Denny.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2018 500 Festival Memorial Service presented by Rolls-Royce. For decades, this annual service has taken pause during a time of celebration throughout our great state to honor Memorial Day's true meaning and recognize that is only possible due to the selflessness of our fallen heroes. As a community nonprofit whose mission is based around the concept of enriching the lives of the citizens of Indiana, the 500 Festival thanks you for your attendance today as we honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of this great nation, the United States of America. I'm Jim Denny from 95.5 WFMS. It is truly my pleasure to be your co-host today. The musical prelude was performed by the Indiana Army National Guard's 38th Infantry Division under the direction of Chief Warrant Officer 3, Patrick L. Palumbo. At this time, we would also like to acknowledge the Capital City Chorus, directed by Kimberly Newcomb, for your continued support throughout today's program. Thank you for sharing your music. As we formally begin the 2018 service, I'd like to start by thanking and acknowledging the generosity of our hosts and partners. We're honored to deliver today's service from the North Steps of the Indiana War Memorial. Dedicated to the Allied forces of World War I, this memorial plaza stands as a living testament to the courage and sacrifice made by so many before us. Spanning 5 city blocks, this plaza has paid tribute to military service as early as the American Civil War. This service spans from a Union soldier training facility in University Park to the American Legion Mall's Cenotaph Square, memorizing the first American casualty of the Great War, Corporal James Bethel Gresham from Evansville, Indiana. As we look over this memorial's inspiring plaza, we recognize a flag to the east. The flag, known as the Garrison flag, is also flown over a military installation. Today, it is flown courtesy of the Indianapolis Fire Department. Community partners of today's 500 Festival Memorial Service include our presenting sponsor, Rolls-Royce, with additional support provided by One America Financial Partners, the American Legion, and our promotional partner, 95.5 WFMS. Thank you also to Wish TV for televising today's service commercial-free. At this time, it is my honor to introduce the members of the official party, starting from your right. Mrs. Denise Rowan, National Commander of the American Legion. Mr. Scott Davison, President and CEO, One America Financial Partners. Mr. Phil Burkholder, President of Defense Aerospace, Rolls-Royce, North America. The Honorable Joseph H. Hogsett, Mayor of Indianapolis. Mr. Rob Hillman, Chairman of the 500 Festival Board of Directors. Mr. Bob Bryant, President and CEO of the 500 Festival. The Honorable Suzanne Crouch, Lieutenant Governor of Indiana. General Joseph L. Lingale, Chief of National Guard Bureau. Major General Courtney P. Carr, the Adjutant General of Indiana. Captain Benjamin Diamond, United States Marines. Lieutenant Commander Nicholas Smith, United States Navy. Brigadier General Kip Clark, United States Air Force. Commander Raymond Nunweiler, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Colonel James Staggers, Indiana National Guard State Chaplain. Staff Sergeant Betty White, Indiana National Guard. And joining us today for our solemn service of tribute, Co-Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Daniel Wheeler, National Adjutant of the American Legion. Generously serving as our flag bearers today are members of the Indianapolis Public Schools Army Junior ROTC program. We have cadet volunteers from Arlington High School, Arsenal Technical High School, Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet High School, George Washington Community High School, and Northwest Community High School. At this time, I ask you please join me in giving a warm welcome and a show of appreciation to all United States Armed Forces members and their families that are with us today, including the United States Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and the Coast Guard. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Chairman of the 500 Festival Board of Directors, Mr. Rob Hillman.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2018 500 Festival Memorial Service presented by Rolls-Royce. On behalf of the 500 Festival and our Board of Directors, we are honored to be in the presence of Gold Star families, distinguished military guests, Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, Mayor Joe Hogsett, and other esteemed attendees. We are here today to collectively pause so that we may honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. The 500 Festival produces over 50 events and programs that are designed to enrich the lives of our community and celebrate the legendary Indianapolis 500 race. But this event today is the one that we hold in the highest regard, as we attempt in our humble way to ensure that the sanctity and meaning of the Memorial Day weekend is given the attention that it deserves, and to recognize that this memorial service in itself would not be possible without the protection and freedoms that our military defends every day. So let us pause and respect and honor on this Memorial Day to remember those who fought, for those who gave their life, and for those who willingly stand ready to do the same without question when the defense of freedom calls on them. We owe each of them the highest regard, respect, and honor, and the assurance that their commitment to this nation's freedom will never be forgotten. Memorial Day is a time for Americans to reconnect with their history and our core values, by honoring those who gave their lives for the ideas we cherish. We in this country owe a great debt of gratitude to those who sacrificed their lives so that we can live free. And we can start to pay that debt by not forgetting, but remembering what they did and what they stand for. You are doing an important thing today. You are making a difference. By being here today, you are not forgetting the sacrifices of our soldiers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the posting of the colors by the Military Department of Indiana's Joint Service Color Guard and the singing of the national anthem by Staff Sergeant Betty White, accompanied by the 38th Infantry Division Band. After which, please remain standing for the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you have given us this good land for our heritage. We thank you for the natural majesty and beauty of the land, for the great resources of this nation, and for the men and women who have made this country strong. We thank you especially for the torch of liberty which has been lit in this land. And although we have sometimes failed to follow its clear light, give us strength to maintain its promised freedoms for all people. Help us, O Lord, to finish the good work here begun. Hasten the day, we ask, when all people in our nation will lift their voices in one united chorus of freedom and liberty for all. We remember before you, O Lord, with grateful hearts, all those men and women of our country who in the day of decision were not wanting and gave their full devotion to preserve the freedom and liberties of our nation. May we, in our day, give honor to their sacrifice as we continue to preserve, protect, and enlarge those ideals for which they gave their lives. We pause, not to give meaning to their deaths, but to know the true meaning of our lives. Let them be our teachers as we seek to rediscover the sources of courage, dedication, patriotism, and sacrifice. May we not rest until all the people of this land share the benefits of true freedom and gladly accept its disciplines. Grant that we may always be an instrument of your peace in a world that is all too familiar with war. Amen.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Staggers. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. The American Legion, chartered by Congress in 1919, was incorporated as a patriotic veterans organization devoted to mutual helpfulness. It is the nation's largest wartime veteran service organization and is committed to mentoring youth and sponsorship of wholesome programs throughout our community, advocating patriotism and honor, promoting strong national security, and a continued devotion to our fellow service members and veterans. Annually, there are hundreds of local American Legion programs and activities that are continuously strengthening this nation, one community at a time. Today, their daily obligation to those affected by war is magnified as we take part in the ceremonial traditions that remind us of those who have given their lives on the battlefield. Representing the members of the American Legion family, it is my pleasure to reintroduce National Adjutant of the American Legion and Co-Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Daniel Wheeler.
Good morning, afternoon. I'm privileged to represent over 3 million members of the American Legion family. Today, as we do every day, members of the American Legion join their communities across the nation and even overseas to honor and remember our fallen comrades during this Memorial Day weekend. This is a very special weekend in Indianapolis, a city that is home to the world's most famous auto race. But that's not why we are gathered here today. While a race may symbolize American freedom and prosperity, we are here for a much higher purpose. It is to honor those who have given everything to make freedom, prosperity, and our American way possible. Let your presence here be your tribute to the true meaning of Memorial Day. It is a time to consider the sacrifices our men and women in uniform have made throughout our nation's history to preserve our freedom and our way of life. As Americans, we are blessed to have people willing to lay down their lives for those of us assembled here today. From the American Revolution to the continuing global war on terrorism, more than 1 million men and women have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Thank you all who have joined us here today to remember them. I call your attention to the empty chair on the second platform. This chair serves as a physical symbol of the thousands of American prisoners of war and service members missing in action and still unaccounted for from all of our nation's conflicts and wars. The cover is being removed from the empty chair to bear the prisoners of war missing in action flag. On it are the words, "You are not forgotten." This flag and these words serve as a reminder for all of us to spare no effort to secure the release of our American POWs in captivity and to repatriate the remains of our brave comrades who gave their life defending our liberty. Let us rededicate ourselves to this vital endeavor. At this time, it is my honor to introduce the Mayor of Indianapolis, Joseph H. Hogsett.
In war they perished. In peace, we remember them. friends, family members, loved ones, and fellow countrymen of these fallen who we honor today, I gather beside you, all of you, as an American who remains forever indebted to the sacrifice of the men and the women who gave their lives so that we remain free. On this day, every year, we return and gather so that Americans who dedicated their lives to the perpetuation of liberty might continue to live with us. And we do so because there is no greater proof of good and the good nature that exists in this world than uplifting the memory of the land, sea, and air forces of these United States. With us right now, in this place, are those that we've lost. And no matter their class or their rank, we know them by the common titles that we all share: parent, child, husband, wife, brother, sister, friend, loved one. Our duty to all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice extends beyond this day, extends beyond this ceremony. It extends beyond our reflection. Our lives, our freedom are their legacy. That means that whether we are at work or at school, whether we are at home or whether we are at the Indianapolis 500, we must remember how we are only able to enjoy our lives thanks to those who gave their life. Thankfully, their legacy is around every corner in this great city, our home, Indianapolis. For we are a grateful city. With the American Legion headquarters and the memorials erected in stone across this mall and all throughout our city, these memorials stand as a testament to our community's resolve that we will always remember their sacrifice. And with them in our hearts and minds, we will do our part to ensure that the freedoms for which they fought remain the birthright of every American. Today and every day, we live for the fallen. May God bless those we remember and their families. May God bless our city and our state. And may our gracious and loving God forever bless the United States of America. I thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hardsett. I now have the privilege to introduce to you the Lieutenant Governor of Indiana, the Honorable Suzanne Crouch.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to share this day with you. I'm humbled to be among so many Hoosier heroes and the family of those heroes that paid the ultimate price. Here in our Hoosier state, Memorial Day weekend is often synonymous with the Indianapolis 500. But Memorial Day weekend is so much more than that. Officially a federal holiday in 1971, Memorial Day is a way for us to show our appreciation, remembering those who died serving our nation. And whenever our nation has called for heroes, Indiana has answered the call. A sense of duty runs through our Hoosier veins. Over the course of our 200-year history, no state has sent more men and women to defend our nation per capita than Indiana. Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." Here in Indiana, our pioneering spirit is alive and it is well, because as Hoosiers, we work hard, we're independent, and we understand what really matters. And what really matters is ensuring that the freedoms and the rights we enjoy are fought for, protected, and handed on for future generations to enjoy. Thank you for allowing me to share this day with you. Governor Holcomb and I hope that everyone enjoys their Memorial Day weekend, but we hope even more that everyone stops at some point this weekend to remember and to honor those who have given their lives so that we are free to live ours. May God bless you. May God bless the great state of Indiana. And may God bless our United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Crouch. Please join me in welcoming the Adjutant General of Indiana, Major General Courtney P. Carr.
Thank you, fellow Hoosiers, for attending today's 500 Festival Memorial Service to honor brave Americans who died serving our great nation, ensuring for us the freedoms that we now enjoy. And a special thanks and recognition to all the veterans here today. I thank you for your tremendous service. The selfless service and sacrifice, as well as that of our Gold Star families, will be remembered and cherished. And your attendance here today helps reinforce that appreciation. This time to reflect on their dedication is a great event every year here in Indianapolis because of the patriotism of this great city. And this ceremony couldn't be possible without the organizations that make it possible, and I'd like to thank Rolls-Royce, One America, Crown Hill Cemetery, the American Legion, WFMS, Wish TV, and of course this great Indiana War Memorial for sponsoring, organizing, and broadcasting this event here in the heartland of America. Additionally, a special thank goes out to all the volunteers and service organizations and the soldiers and airmen of the Indiana National Guard who make this such a heartfelt event. It's now my great honor to introduce our guest speaker. General Engel is a graduate of the ROTC program at University of North Texas. He serves as the 28th Chief of the National Guard Bureau and is a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In this role, he serves as a military advisor to the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the National Security Council. He's responsible for ensuring 453 Army and Air National Guard personnel stand ready to protect the homeland and provide combat-ready resources to the Army and Air Force. General Engel has commanded a fighter squadron, operations group, air expeditionary group, the Air National Guard Readiness Center, and as I mentioned, is now the chief of our National Guard Bureau. He's a command pilot with more than 3,000 flying hours, primarily in the F-16. And he's a great friend to Indiana. Without further ado, let's give General Engel a hearty Hoosier welcome. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. General Carr, thank you, sir, for that great introduction. To Governor Crouch, thank you to the 500 Festival, Mr. Mayor, to the great citizens of Indianapolis and Indiana. I thank you for allowing me to be part of this great day of remembrance. It's a solemn day. It's an important day. I choose to be inspired by it, by the men and women who have given everything, by the families who sit in front of us who have given much. To the men and women who can currently serve, I am inspired by the men and women that choose to serve our nation. Let me start by thanking our veterans, their families for their service, and especially any family members of a fallen warrior. We are here to remember not only our loved ones, but your service as well. To remember these great Americans. They are not gone as long as we remember them. One cannot be in Indianapolis without remembering the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, Portland-class heavy cruiser of the U.S. Navy, named for this city. The ship served several roles for various commanders. In 1945, the sinking of the USS Indianapolis led to the greatest loss of life at sea from a single ship in the history of the United States Navy. The ship had just finished a high-speed trip to the United States Army Air Base at Tinian, where it delivered parts of Little Boy, the first nuclear weapon ever used as a weapon of war. She was on her way to the Philippines, and in the early hours of July 30th, 1945, the ship was torpedoed and sank in just 12 minutes. And of the 1,195 crewmen on board, approximately 300 went down with the ship. The remaining 900 faced exposure and dehydration, salt water poisoning, and famously, shark attacks. They floated in the dangerous waters with few lifeboats and no food and no water. The Navy learned of the sinking when survivors were spotted by happenstance 4 days later by a crew on routine patrol, and only 316 survived. I saw their picture in this memorial. That was one story among many thousands of legacy and valor. The legacy handed down to us and valor immersed in the sacrifice of our service to our nation. This is one of a multitude of reasons we observe this day. You may not know, but there is a bit of debate about where Memorial Day tradition began, and it actually started, heartwarming to me, over 24 communities from Waterloo, New York, to Richmond, Virginia, to Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. They lay claim to starting a celebration that holds such national meaning to us today. One of the first tributes happened in Columbus, Mississippi on April 25th, 1866, when a local woman visited a cemetery to decorate the graves of Confederate soldiers killed at Shiloh. When the women saw the unkept and neglected graves of Union soldiers, they decided to lay flowers on both Confederate and Union graves. Perhaps a small start to a troubled reconciliation for our nation. Tradition holds that May 30th was selected because it ensured that flowers would be in bloom throughout our nation. While our traditions have changed slightly, Memorial Day allows us to honor our fallen heroes. It's a day to remember legacy and valor, as told in the story of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, or any other military engagement on the water, in the skies, or on the land where men and women serving our country paid the ultimate sacrifice. Legacy and valor, they are not just words. They represent an attitude and dedication to service that we must restoke and rekindle in the fireplace of freedom. Indiana understands the honor and the heartache of legacy and valor. The Indiana National Guard has suffered the harsh wounds of grief and loss in the deaths of soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know firsthand the impact of sacrifice and service. No words can possibly express our deep gratitude for their selfless service. Earlier this morning, I met with a group of Gold Star families. Many I still see are here today. Each story is heartbreaking, and it's humbling to see the strength in the loved ones they have left behind. I was privileged to meet the family of Sergeant Jonathan Michael Hunter from Columbus, Indiana. Sergeant Hunter was killed in Afghanistan on August 2nd, 2017, when a suicide bomber attacked his convoy. His wife Whitney, father Mark, mother Kimberly, stepfather Brian, and brother Marcus, that their loss is our loss. They must know that. We are grateful for Sergeant Hunter's sacrifice. I know no words of mine can ease their pain or grief, and I hope that the passing of time and the many happy memories of his life ease their pain. And I hope that they take some comfort from their fellow citizens acknowledging their grief on this Memorial Day. This November, the world marks the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, first war to end all wars. In that conflict and subsequent wars, American blood secured liberty and democracy for millions around the globe. I have been privileged to visit the American cemeteries in France and the Manila American Cemetery in the Philippines, walking through the rows of pristine marble headstones and seeing the panel after panel inscribed with names of those lost and not recovered in the Pacific. There is a serene peace at these memorials. There is that same serene peace among the fallen at Arlington National Cemetery and across the numerous cemeteries around our great nation. But there is also a quiet determination, a palpable sense of duty and devotion to our nation that you can only feel when visiting our fallen warriors. We have not forgotten them. It is only fitting that on this Memorial Day we pause during the festivities to think about the warriors that have died protecting our very way of life with honor and valor. Think about all they gave and all their families gave up. They are a testament to the price our country has paid for freedom, at home and abroad. As an American serviceman, I can say that we proudly honor those who have died for our freedoms. We are always striving to minimize future loss and do all we can to avoid war. But no matter how good we get, no matter what technological marvels we produce, no matter how hard we try to avoid it, our business of protecting this country will always involve the ultimate sacrifice. People will always die in war. And unfortunately, people will die training for war. Despite our best efforts, we have lost 6,959 service members during the various operations surrounding our actions in Afghanistan and Iraq. 5,422 have been killed in action. We do not take lightly the deaths of our country's greatest resource, the American service member. Every loss, whether in war or peace, is investigated to see how we could have avoided it. How can we prevent it in the future? I can tell you even today, the investigation of a recent C-130 crash in Georgia several weeks ago that took the lives of 9 Puerto Rico servicemen is underway. We will find out, and we will do everything we can from preventing it from happening again. Despite the known dangers and time away from family and friends, every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman in today's service has either enlisted or re-enlisted since 9/11. These are the kind of men and women who serve in today's military. They are the men and women who write a blank check payable up to the totality of their life to the United States of America. Thankfully, among our citizens, we still find those that are willing to serve, and these new recruits have grown up during a time of constant conflict. Still, they raise their right hand and they clasp the flag with eyes wide open, fully knowing the risks they take. And they step forward to defend this great nation. They are worthy successors to the legacy left by men and women who have paid the ultimate price. They continue a tradition of volunteer service that dates from before the founding of our nation. We are responsible for continuing these days of remembrance. If we could have but one more day with our loved one, we would make the most of it. I believe that we best honor our fallen by enjoying the freedom that they held so dear. We honor them with the crack of a bat during an Indianapolis Indians game, or during a quiet conversation with family during a picnic at Indiana Dunes State Park. We honor them with the sounds of children playing at Stout Field or the roar of the engines at the Brickyard. We honor their sacrifice through our formal events like this, and we honor them through the ebb and flow of our normal daily lives. We honor them throughout our lives by striving to make the world a better place. This Memorial Day, as we enjoy the Indy 500 and time we spend with families and friends, we must all take the time to remember the legacy left to us by the brave men and women of our nation's armed forces, so that their lives were not lost in vain. That is our legacy, honoring them, honoring the men and women who fought and died to ensure democracy, freedom, and equality, and the lasting peace will prevail across our world. I'm honored to be here with you today and to remember these great men and women. May God bless all of you. May God continue to bless the United States of America.
Thank you, General Lynn Gale. The city of Indianapolis has devoted more acreage than any other U.S. city to honoring our nation's fallen. As we stand here in front of this, the Indiana War Memorial, approved for construction in 1919, in conjunction with the new home of the American Legion, we must recognize the anniversary of its meaning and creation. This November will mark the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, deemed the war to end all wars. We now know that, unfortunately, that reality did not ring true. No United States citizen knows this sentiment more than the servicemen and women and the families of the United States Armed Forces. In a tradition dating back to World War I, during wartime, families with members serving would display a Blue Star banner in the window of their home. If a member of that family is lost while on duty, the Blue Star is then replaced by a Gold Star. The display of this flag and significance of the Blue Star is a reminder that war touches all families. Honoring the fallen is personal, and with a Gold Star, we recognize immediate family members who were denied the return of their loved ones who served. Through our unity on Memorial Day, we remember the fallen and their families. Please join me in offering gratitude to all the Gold Star families who have given so much in the defense of our nation. Representing the families today are members of the Gold Star parents, Gold Star spouses, and our Gold Star children and siblings. Amid sorrow and loss, their commitment to maintaining the memory of those whose lives were sacrificed in our wars while spreading their spirit of patriotism is incredible. At this time, please stand during the laying of the wreaths. These 3 wreaths are dedicated to the memory of all Hoosiers in all wars and conflicts who have sacrificed their lives in defense of this nation. At the completion of the wreath laying, we will pause for a moment of silence. Representing the Gold Star parents, Mrs. Sharon White, mother of Specialist Raymond Lawyer White, United States Army. She will be escorted by Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. Representing the Gold Star spouses, Miss Leo Fee Douglas, wife of Master Sergeant Daniel Douglas, Indiana Army National Guard. She'll be escorted by Mayor Joe Hogsett. Representing the Gold Star children and siblings, Andrew Waters, brothers of Private First Class James Waters, United States Army. He'll be escorted by the 500 Festival Queen Scholar, Natalie Murdoch, and Chairman of the 500 Festival Board of Directors, Mr. Rob Hillman. Thank you. The USS Indianapolis CA-35 heavy cruiser was the ship that delivered the atomic weapon components that mobilized the attack on Japan and ended World War II. After delivering the components, the ship was torpedoed and sunk with 1,196 men on board. Just 317 sailors survived the 4.5 days that passed before their rescue, making it the largest single disaster at sea ever suffered by the U.S. Navy. The USS Indianapolis Museum is located here at the Indianapolis War Memorial. Please remain standing as today we use the ship's bell to honor the Indiana serviceman who has fallen in the theater of war since March of 2017. We recognize Sergeant Jonathan Michael Hunter, United States Army. He was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 504th Infantry Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 82nd Airborne Division, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the honor you have bestowed upon our Hoosier hero. You may be seated. In a few moments, entering from the east, you will see a military funeral procession, also known as a cortege. The cortege comprises the service members who accompany the remains of the deceased to the gravesite. Elements of a cortege are the escort commander, honor platoons representing all services, drummers, an honor guard, the horse-drawn caisson which transports the fallen hero's remains, 8 casket bearers, and the comparisoned horse. During the Civil War, a horse-drawn carriage called a caisson, normally used as an ammunition wagon, was used as an improvised hearse to carry the dead from the battlefield. The hearse was covered with a flag, which often became a makeshift burial cloth. A riderless horse, also called a comparisoned horse, follows the caisson. The horse is adorned with a saddle, a pair of cavalry boots reversed in the stirrups, and an army saber attached to the right side of the saddle. This symbolizes the fact that the deceased has fallen as a warrior and will not ride again. The Military Department of Indiana Ceremonial Unit is the official sister organization of the Old Guard at Arlington National Cemetery. Founded in 1974, the unit renders honors at military funerals, marches and parades, serves as an honor guard for the governor, and represents the Indiana National Guard. The primary mission of the ceremonial unit is to provide military honors to the deceased. The motto of the ceremonial unit is respect, honor, tribute. Please remain silent as the cortege enters the ceremony. Please face the cortege as the Military Department of Indiana Ceremonial Unit pays tribute to our fallen heroes. The ceremonial unit firing party conducts a rifle salute and the bugler plays taps. And now you may be seated as the 38th Infantry Division Band of the Indiana Army National Guard will play the battle hymn of the Republic. Today's A-10C Warthog flyover is conducted by the airmen of the 122nd Fighter Wing, 163rd Fighter Squadron of our very own Indiana Air National Guard, known as the Black Snakes, based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Near the end of the hymn, you may want to turn and face north as the flyover will approach from the north. this time, please remain standing as the memorial prayer and benediction is offered by Lieutenant Colonel James Staggers.
Let us pray. Eternal One, who alone rules the destinies of nations and who has deemed that we should live in freedom and not fear, continue to awaken in us a new appreciation for our land, that we may apply ourselves to the great work of keeping alive a sense of freedom. Grant us your Spirit as we further honor those who have fought a good fight and finished the race. As we depart for this weekend, we call to remembrance those who served in far-off places and have laid down their arms to march into that land of eternal peace. We remember the sufferings, the fears, and the horrors of what they endured. It is a time for us to realize that much of our best blood has been spilled all over the world, so that we here today might live free and unchained. May they and those who suffer wounds for peace, as well as their families, who valiantly and silently also serve, receive rest from their struggles and a well done from you, Captain of their souls. Permit us never to forget our comrades in arms from whose fallen hands we have taken up the sacred cause of freedom. Keep sacred their sacrifice in our hearts. Keep holy our course in your sight. And kindle within us a flame of selfless, unwavering devotion to duty, that we may never be found wanting in those qualities of spirit and mind which alone are able to preserve hearth and home, the peace of our nation, and the tranquility of the world. May the day soon come when we can lay down arms and more earnestly give our attention to do justice, to live in kindness, and to walk humbly in your sight. Amen.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Staggers. We thank our distinguished guests for joining us today, and we thank everyone for honoring all the men and women who have served our country so gallantly. Once today's ceremony comes to a close, please take a carnation and place it near the wreaths at the steps of the War Memorial in tribute to those who have given their lives for our freedom. To conclude our event, please remain standing while the Color Guard retires the colors and the Capital City Chorus will sing, "God Bless America."
Another 500 Festival memorial service draws to a close. And officially, I suppose, we begin another Memorial Day weekend. It'll be a time to renew old relationships, very likely watch a race, but above all, remember fallen friends, those who've died in service of the nation. It is always an honor to be part of this broadcast. We appreciate the opportunity here at Wish TV to bring it to you each year. As you go out this weekend, we certainly hope you'll take time from time to remember those who died in service of the country. A few remarkable moments from the service, of course, strong speeches as always, and the symbolism very rich of the bell from the USS Indianapolis being the one to toll the death of a recent service member from Indiana. It is a spectacular sky right now. Might get a little warm through the weekend. Stay safe out there. Get cool where you can. And as always, have a very good Memorial Day weekend.